scientific consensus
is that we are causing global warming.
I am Al Gore. I used to be the next president of the United States of America.
This is Patagonia 75 years ago and the same glacier today. This is Mount Kilimanjaro 30 years ago and last year. Within the decade, there will be no more snows of Kilimanjaro.
This is really not a political issue so much as a moral issue. The Arctic is experiencing faster melting. If this were to go, sea level worldwide would go up 20 feet.
This is what would happen in Florida. Around Shanghai, home to 40 million people. The area around Calcutta, 60 million. Here's Manhattan. The World Trade Center Memorial would be underwater. Think of the impact of a couple 100,000 refugees, and then imagine 100 million.
Everything I read is global warming going green. I don't know what all this means.
For 2.5 million years, the Earth's climate has fluctuated, cycling from ice ages to warmer periods. But in the last century, the planet's temperature has risen unusually fast, about 1.2 to 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Scientists believe it's human activity that's driving the temperatures up, a process known as global warming. Ever since the Industrial Revolution began, factories, power plants, and eventually cars have burned fossil fuels such as oil and coal, releasing huge amounts of carbon dioxide and other gases into the atmosphere. These greenhouse gases trap heat near the Earth through a naturally occurring process called the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect begins with the sun and the energy it radiates to the Earth. The Earth and the atmosphere absorb some of this energy, while the rest is radiated back into space. Naturally occurring gases in the atmosphere trap some of this energy and reflect it back, warming the Earth. Scientists now believe that the greenhouse effect is being intensified by the extra greenhouse gases that humans have released. Evidence for global warming includes a recent string of very warm years. Scientists report that 1998 was the warmest year in measured history, with 2005 coming in second. Meanwhile, readings taken from ice cores show that the greenhouse gases carbon dioxide and methane have hit their highest levels in the past 420,000 years. Arctic sea ice is also shrinking. According to NASA studies, the extent of Arctic sea ice has declined about 10% in the last 30 years. As long as industrialized nations consume energy and developing countries increase their fossil fuel consumption, the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere will continue to rise. Researchers predict that temperatures will increase about 2 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit by the end of the century. What's less certain is what rising temperatures mean for the planet. Some climate models predict subtle changes. Others forecast rising sea levels which could flood coastal areas around the world. Weather patterns could change, making hurricanes more frequent. Severe droughts could become more common in warm areas, and species unable to adapt to the changing conditions would face extinction. Although much remains to be learned about global warming, many organizations advocate cutting greenhouse gas emissions to reduce the impact of global warming. Consumers can help by saving energy around the house, switching to compact fluorescent light bulbs, and driving fewer miles in the car each week. These simple changes may help keep the Earth cooler in the future.
Thank you very much, George.
All right, so you called this an unprecedented emergency.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
It's a planetary emergency because the leading scientists like Jim Hansen at NASA are now saying we may have only 10 years before we cross a point of no return unless we take quick action to dramatically reduce the levels of global warming pollution that we're putting up into the Earth's atmosphere. The fact is, it's hard to imagine that we're capable of creating this kind of situation. But we've quadrupled human population on the Earth in the last 100 years. We've magnified the power of our technologies thousands of times over. And the combination of those two things, coupled with an attitude of not caring about the future, has led to this incredibly destructive pattern. And actually, there are parts of the Earth's ecological system that are shockingly vulnerable. The atmosphere is very thin. And with all this new power, we're able to radically change the composition of the atmosphere, and we're putting up so much global warming pollution that it's trapping a lot more of the sun's heat inside the atmosphere, raising global temperatures dramatically, and cooking, wilting, drying out, parching the most vulnerable parts. It's making hurricanes stronger. It's melting the North Pole.
But that's not new, and people know this. And people,
No,
people don't care, though, and you know that.
I don't agree with you.
Come on.
I don't agree with you.
SUV sales through the roof, and it's not just SUVs.
But you coupled two things.
Yeah.
You coupled two things. You said, oh, it's not new. People know this, and they just don't care. That's wrong. Because people who accept it and who really know it do care. And we have to do two things. We have to break through the denial and break through the efforts of some of the big polluters to confuse people about this, and not only convince them that it's real, but that it's what the scientists say it is, an emergency. And then the second thing we have to do is to show that we've got everything we need to solve this except political will, which is a renewable resource. So we have to renew it.
Let us be lovers, we'll marry our fortunes together. Got some real estate here in my bag, so we bought a pack of cigarettes and Mrs. Wagner pies, and walked off to look for America. I said as we boarded a Greyhound in Pittsburgh, Michigan seems like a dream to me now. It took me 4 days to hitchhike from Saginaw.